I remembered when I was invited for an interview to be a candidate for PAP, was at Istana. And that was in 1984 in April. And prior to that, there's been talk about the question of Malay loyalty, the non-inclusion of Malays in the armed forces, in the police, and certainly there were unhappiness among the Malay community about the defense policy of Singapore. So he asked me, do you believe that Singaporean Malays would be able to be loyal enough to defend Singapore? He looked at me, and I gave a reply. And I said, in a brutal, equally brutal manner, that if you have a Malay in the army and you train them sufficiently, when they're aiming the gun towards the enemy, before they pull the trigger, they will ask themselves 3 questions. First, whether they are full Singapore citizen, enjoying the benefit of everything. 2, whether they suffer discrimination. And 3, whether they are not a second-class citizen. And they have future under your protection for themselves and their families. If the answer, I said, is yes, they will not be hesitant to pull the trigger. But the answer is no, they will not pull the trigger. And I said, it is for you, person in charge, to show that you trust them. Because without trust, there will be no loyalty. You build loyalty of your citizens because you trust them. So that was essential. And I said, we didn't ask you to change your policy by reversing it immediately. You can do it phase by phase. And I think over the past 30 years, there has been some movement over this policy. And this, in 1970s, were crucial because when we started having Singapore as an independent country, we only have 2, Singapore Infantry Regiment. And out of that, almost all, if not 90% of them, consist of Malays. Malay. So are the police force. So I think obviously, when you have an independent nation, you want to have multiracial defense forces.
And that more or less represents the racial proportions.
So it is understandable for you to scale down the intake of the Malays into the army. But when it comes to national service, there were related problems because you are not called up for national service, you can't get employed. No employer will hire you because they are worried in case halfway through they are called up for national service and the employer will have to foot the bill for the salaries.
So essentially, Yatiman, if I hear you correctly, what you're saying is that his ruthlessness was very closely correlated to pragmatism, a certain pragmatic and almost brutally pragmatic orientation, and it's not the same as discrimination. Sometimes the practice could appear to be discriminatory, but his objective is something larger.
His idea of posing the question actually to get to the bottom of the psychological makeup of the Singapore Malays then, and to assure him that if he moves along certain policy, that policy will benefit Singapore as well as
and
the Malays
will not backfire.
So that was the ultimate objective.
Right.
Yeah?